Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing. And I apologize, I'm still a little stuffy from some kind of a head cold or something, but we're still out here doing some testing. And today I've got a combination that I'm really excited to see how it can do, because these shells have given us one of the best patterns we've seen on the channel through a different choke combo. And I have some pretty high hopes for this choke as well, since we just recently picked it up. So this combo could really impress us. But as for those shells I brought out here today, I got out some more of these. These are some Winchester Military Grade buckshot loads. They are a 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 9 pellet load of double aught, and I believe the velocity claim is 1325. I'll correct myself here on the screen if I'm wrong. And here's what one of those shells looks like. Essentially just your standard Winchester Super X stuff, but with the green and black type of hull here. And surprisingly enough, these have been some of the best performers through the aftermarket chokes when it comes to buckshot. I'll leave the card above here, but these gave us an absolutely incredible pattern through the Kicks butt kicker choke. So can they possibly repeat that, or maybe even do better than that through today's choke combo? There is a real possibility of it. But as for today's combo, I brought out my Remington 1187. It has a 28-inch barrel, and with the choke I put in here, this is the Trulock Boar Blaster choke. It is a .700 or 700 constriction, so pretty typical modified choke range. But we did just recently pick this choke up and test it last week with some Federal 9 pellet loads, and it did pretty decent for a start. And I've always had good luck with Trulock chokes, so there is a real possibility that this choke and shell combo could give us something super impressive. We're just gonna have to see how it does. So as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards. I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity, and the templates that we can lay up over our results as well. So enough talking, let's head over here and take our shot and see if we can get another incredible pattern from these Winchester Military Grade buckshot loads through this Trulock Boar Blaster today. There's a real possibility it looks pretty good, but we don't know what's going to happen until we try it. So let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, so that shell gave us 1201 through the chrono. Like I mentioned earlier, I believe the boss claim is 1325 for these. So we are a little bit below that claim. But from what I can remember, we were typically mid 1200s or so with these in our previous testing. And still, 1201 is plenty good enough out to 40 or 50 yards for double aught buck all day long. But what I can't get over is just how much recoil reduction that choke has. I don't even think Trulock really claims anything like that for that choke. But I mean, in both of our tests with that Boar Blaster choke, it made these buckshot loads feel very close to a trap load. I mean, it is super impressive. I don't know that I've ever really had a choke that reduced recoil quite like that one does, but it absolutely makes a difference. But what kind of a pattern did it actually give us down at 40 yards? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. We had all 9 pellets on the paper, the white dot was my point of aim, the paper's 36 inches wide, and the pattern is kind of somewhere in the middle. It's a good overall size pattern, but it definitely isn't the super tight, hot, condensed pattern like I was hoping to see, or like we have seen before out of these shells. Now, I did measure the farthest 2 points across on this pattern are pretty much left to right there, and that gave us a 21-inch spread at 40 yards. So not terrible for overall size, but we have a void right in the middle of the pattern, which isn't really what you want to see. Overall, the pattern is a pretty even spread. I just really don't like that big hole right in the middle of the pattern. And with how this pattern looks, it honestly tells me that they want a little bit more constriction, which might make sense considering that the Kicks butt kicker full choke that these really did well through was a 693-ish constriction compared to this 700 in this Boar Blaster. A little bit more constriction might really tune these in just a little bit more. Now, these are a buffered load, but they are not plated and they do not have a wad, so that definitely makes a difference as well. But overall, I guess it's somewhere in the middle here. The size of the pattern is pretty decent. The spread of the pattern, or how even it is, definitely is not perfect. So I suppose let's throw a couple templates up and see how it would actually look in a little bit more real life type of scenario rather than just the blank sheet of paper. All right, here's the 10-inch circle, and if we line it up right with where our core should be, which we were pretty well dead centered up on this paper, we had one pellet that kind of barely snuck in at the very top there. So you can very clearly see the big void right in the middle of the pattern, but the rest of the pellets are right behind or right around that 10-inch template. So there is potential there. We just don't have the pellets right where we really kind of need them or want them to be, right in the middle of the pattern. So for a 10-inch circle, definitely not impressed. But let's throw some animal templates up and see how this pattern would have looked in a hunting type of scenario. All right, so here's your deer template, and if we line it up with our point of aim, we would have had 6 out of the 9 pellets for sure hit this deer, but we pretty much circled the vitals. Now, would that still be a dead deer? Probably so. A few of those top ones definitely would have got into something as far as spine goes, and that one low one might have clipped bottom edge of the heart or something, but definitely not the ideal deer hunting pattern here. Is it good enough? Yeah, probably so, but this is why we really don't want a void right smack dead in the middle of our pattern, or else you might get a little bit of a disappointing result like this. So for deer hunt, it's good enough, but not a combination that I would immediately reach for to go out and take on a hunt, that's for sure. So I think it's going to be pretty much the same story, but let's throw the hog template up and at least take a peek at that one as well. And here's that hog template, and it's pretty much the same story like I suspected. Probably good enough to be a dead hog, but definitely not my ideal combination with that big hole right in the middle of the pattern. So overall here today, it's kind of the same story that we saw the last time with this boar blaster choke. It's just right on the edge of being a pretty impressive result. It's been decent both times we've tested it, but definitely not perfect. Maybe that just comes down to finding the right shell for that choke, but both times we've tested it so far, it's been just right on the fence. It just hasn't quite given us that super impressive result that we're looking for yet. And I know that these military grade buckshot loads today are capable of way better, that's for sure. So I was hoping to see a little bit better out of them. But that's why we try a bunch of different combinations, since we don't really know what that choke truly likes just yet. So not terrible overall for a pattern today, but definitely a little bit of a disappointment as well. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that result right there? It's pretty much right on the fence. Like I've already said a number of times, I think the overall size of the pattern isn't bad. We've seen better, but still 20, 21 inches or so at 40 yards is very usable. We just need pellets in the middle of that core, which we don't have. And if we would have taken a few more shots with that combination, we probably would have filled that core in at some point. But if that was the shot that counted, then you would have been missing some pellets right in the middle of your pattern there. So once again, this choke has been decent. It's shown signs of some pretty nice potential. I just think we need to find that right shell for it more than anything else. So I guess leave your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you surprised one way or the other? Is that a pattern that's good enough for you? Or are you kind of like me where it's a decent pattern, but it's just not quite what you're looking for either? And what other shells do you want to see us run through that boar blaster choke? I've got a ton of them, so leave all your suggestions down in the comments. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.